Anyway, we'll begin the webinar, today's webinar, with small introduction and why we are gathered today, and how this today's technical session will help the users. So I just wanted to tell you that we've been doing quite few webinar on video analytics and AI since last August, I would say. So we covered on do more with your surveillance system, uh, transforming surveillance from cost center to strategic asset. This was a well-received uh, topic that we covered. And the next we spoke about CCTV beyond surveillance, but we spoke about smart surveillance in healthcare and pharma. So we covered pharma industry. Then we covered logistic warehouses, how VMS can help to improve the operation of logistic center and warehouse. This was done in October. We also touched upon surveillance in educational system. Only in India, we don't really look at university educational system as to improve the CCTV operation. You look at Middle East or Europe and America. There's a huge usage of VMS in educational system. I think soon we'll again have the second edition to this. And there are huge cameras spread out in the campus. But how many of them really use effectively by using the VMS? So this subject is quite interesting. We should again revisit this topic on this. And we also very interestingly covered the VMS in construction project or construction industry. Very interesting topic. How do we improve the safety of the workers? And also, how do we monitor the progress of the construction? And also, to a certain extent, monitor the inflow, outflow of material from the site. A very interesting topic that we covered. And we spoke about the retail store, remote inspection of have multiple locations. So how do you manage the stores? So the previous one was Industry 4.0, how the future monitoring and video and the CCTV and surveillance is moving forward. Very interesting subject, Mr. Srini and Vamshi covered. And today we are talking about centralized security operations. It means what? So we are talking about, the impact of artificial intelligence on surveillance through VMS. VMS stands for Video Management System, bringing all camera at central location. You may have multiple cameras in multiple cities and locations. Maybe within the city, you may have in different will present and discuss on the advantage of centralizing the security operation using AI-based VMS for monitoring multiple locations, efficient crowd management, license plate recognitions, video search capability, and predictive insight. So these advancements enhance the overall security operation efficiency of the monitoring station, allowing proactive and robust surveillance system. So this is a topic that we are covering today. I'm sure all the participants who are joining and yet to be joined will benefit out of this discussion. So I would like to introduce Duranc, probably only company in India. The Duranc is continuously educating and transforming beyond surveillance, I would say. So I don't see any other VMS solution company or sharing this knowledge on various industries. I want to say Duranc today positioned itself as a solution, not just a box moving or a tailor-made solution. So they study, and that's what interests me. That's what I'm promoting everywhere. Why Duranc is a preferred choice for multiple choice. They listen to you, they understand your pain points, and they develop further more than whatever they discussed and give you a solution. So Duranc vision is to help businesses and organizations maximize the potential of their surveillance cameras. To do this, they have built a secure, reliable, and cost-effective video platform that provides user the deep, intelligent analytics and insight in real time. Duranc was founded in 2015. They gathered a highly talented global team to create the cloud-based platform. Duranc innovative video streaming and storage technology offers client the ultimate in video surveillance functionality delivered seamlessly from the cloud. They're headquartered in Nashville, USA. They have an R&D center in Helsinki, Finland. And the development global support is based in Hyderabad. So today we have two panelists or speakers. Both are based out of Hyderabad. And myself, I'm the host for today's webinar, being seen in fire industry more and also security. So founder of FSA, Fire and Security of India, many other societies, which is critical to the building operations. So I've been there since the last 33 years. So we have a dynamic leader, DP Srinivas. He has 22 years of diverse experience in various industries, ranging from financial market, real estate, automobiles, and information technology. His global experience and extensive travel gave him keen and understanding of world markets. His passion has been to identify, create innovative products and solutions and make them available to the market that is needed. His passion for developing innovative ideas made him a serial entrepreneur, founding and advising many startup companies in India. He is a co-founder and CRO of Duranc, the leading provider of VMS as a service. He has been instrumental in shaping the product design, features, and providing market insights. Being voracious readers and extensive traveler, is a strong believer in the concept of innovation, innovative ideas coupled with strategic implementation and commercialization lead to create of jobs and wealth. This mantra can lead corporate India to become world economic leader. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Srinivasan, Mr. Srinivas for you, based out of Hyderabad today. So we have a brilliant speaker, Mr. Vamshi Krishna. He is the COO of Duranc Tech Services. He has over 25 years of cross-functional management experience in project management, operations, technology, infrastructure, people, and customer management. He has extensive experience in dealing with cross-cultural teams and customers from across the globe, including US, Europe, South Africa, and Middle East. As a head of operation of Duranc for over 8 years, he has overseen the development and implementation and support of the cutting-edge Duranc Vision Smart Surveillance solution. With strong focus on quality, he has spearheaded the implementation of ISO 9001 and 2015. And the product development and technical support process within the organization. As a technical evangelist, he advocates and helps customers benefit from and benefit from and understand the limitation of the technological innovations in the surveillance industry. I also have my colleague Lakshmi and Kirtana, who's backend supporting, and they will continue to share more information. And those who are interested to know the previous webinar that we have conducted, you can just put it on a chat box. My team will get back to you or share you the link on the mail so that you'll be able to rewind and replay those videos for your beneficial. So I now welcome Srini and Vamsi to begin today's webinar. Over to you.
Thank you, Dominic. It's always been a pleasure to have a conversation with you. You throw too many challenges for us, and you start with fire and safety, and fire being the first one for you. So it's always go hand in hand, the safety with the fire, and it's always been a challenge to understand the real world scenarios and try to create real world solutions to reduce or mitigate the accidents and fatalities, and then safeguard the people across everywhere. That's
Srini, while you say this, there are 26,000 people die every day. And I'm in Kerala today. I did some audit of the hospitals. As I was saying, most of the emergency evacuation are neglected. And there's one fire officer died 3 days back in Trivandrum, that too in Tech Park.
No.
The whole false ceiling fell on him. It was really entire burning metal film, and he is just 32 years, he lost his life. So how really, we want to really use this technology of Duranc VMS, how your analytics can play an important role in safety aspects. So it's a very big subject. I think, I'm sure, being from fire industry, I want to see how you can handshake your software that you've developed with safety in practices in India.
Absolutely. So to do that, first of all, we need to understand, the current scenario of implementation of surveillance, how it's installed, how it is implemented, and how it is being used. So that's one of the things that we always focus right up front when somebody calls us or when we visit to a customer. Enterprise environments like SEZs, like large factories and buildings, office buildings, multi-storied office buildings with 50 floors, 60 floors. There is always an implementation deficiency, so to say, in surveillance. Not because they don't want to have surveillance, but 90% of the time it is the ad hocness of the thinking in terms of going and implementing something today. And then you put like 4 cameras and a DVR in one corner and 20 cameras and a NVR in another floor. You keep on adding with ad hocness, and then end of the day you end up with tons and tons of these cameras which are silos, which are disparate and then disconnected with the local storages, and not having centralized opportunity to manage. And the biggest problem is evidence management. You do miss out on pretty much every time when you want to go back and look, something is missing in that storage. And that's where you need to consolidate, you need to bring all those cameras, be it whatever, whether it is 5-year-old camera or yesterday installed camera. You need to bring all those, because these cameras are the lifesavers. End of the day, somewhere, somehow you are actually taking input out of those cameras and improving your process for tomorrow, for the safety of the people. So that's where we, Duranc, focus in consolidation of the cameras. So Vamshi will give you much more insight on, what is the current problems, how do we bring these together, and what does it take for us, not removing those existing infrastructure, but to bring them and consolidate them to the centralized command control, and making the insights very, very precisely required way, so that we don't miss out an opportunity to save somebody. Having said that,
Wonderful.
we will jump into the presentation, and Vamshi will start the presentation. We will discuss a little bit more. And always a pleasure, Dominic, to answer too many questions on those. You have a ton of questions, and I think our participants also got a lot of questions. Please post them. We'll try to answer as much as we can.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Srini. Over to Vamshi. Yeah.
Yep, thank you. So we'll extend what on the introduction that is given, how Duranc can help do more with surveillance and how the typical setups are at the moment. Now, as Srini mentioned, it's basically all of them are deployed in silos. You have setups at each location depending on the environment that's there, the availability of the setup, networks, cameras, etc., and the storage. So you will have disparate systems, different makes and models, different architectures that are used at different locations, especially when you have multiple locations. There may be some people watching at some locations, maybe there is nobody watching at some locations. The old way of, we would have seen in advertisements like fill it and forget it for the gasoline, for example. So the CCTV is also followed for a long time, the same approach, fill it and forget it, like fit it and forget it. Instead of fill it and forget it. So it's basically you fit all the cameras and you typically forget about it. Only when you need something, you go back and try to figure out. And many times when you do that, you realize that maybe the recording that you really need was not available, or it's too difficult to locate that particular recording due to the distribution, the architectures, and the mix and match of multiple NVRs, DVRs, cameras, etc. This is the problem that is typically there today, and even in larger organizations, we are surprised to see when we look into the industry and the field. We've been surprised to see that even larger organizations have this problem, not just smaller setups, but even bigger enterprises where they have localized for obvious reasons. I know it's not that one silver bullet and everything needs to be centralized, but even then, when they have setups at different locations, they have these problems of silos, not understanding or not knowing what goes on at a particular location. And you won't be able to take better decisions unless you have insight into all your locations or all your areas to be able to take appropriate decisions. So that's what we try to address, these disjointed systems to be able to connect and bring you insights for a centralized decision making and better efficiencies. Yeah. So we will focus on that in terms of what is the need of centralizing the security operations, and what are some of the challenges that you face in doing that, typical challenges that you face, and how Duranc can address those challenges is how we will structure this discussion, rather not as a presentation. So I'll start with a couple of points in terms of why centralizing the security operations is needed, and then we can have any questions, any other thoughts or inputs from the panel, you and even audience, take from there. So if you see the reasons for centralizing the operations, it's the efficiency is definitely one of the factors. You have a single center, you have as a command center, which reduces the need for multiple separate surveillance centers. You don't need to have multiple surveillance centers, and each having its own equipment, its own staff, etc. So you bring in efficiency so that you can reuse existing resources, whether it is surveillance resources, technologies, the softwares that you use, the personnel that you use, the training that you need to impart. All of it, brings in more efficiencies. It also brings in cost effectiveness, obviously, because then you eliminate the redundancies that are required in terms, whether it is servers, hardware, whether it is software, whether it is people, the training, because the surveillance technology has come leaps and bounds. We will probably discuss a little bit, touch upon that in this webinar a little, but it has come a leaps and bounds, and it obviously requires that people that are end users that are using this facility, these systems, also are capable of knowing or have the skills to properly use that system to take that actual advantage of deploying these latest technologies. So that's another aspect of it in terms of ensuring your personnel are trained, and when centralizing the operations, it helps a lot. It also helps in standardization, because obviously once you have a centralized security operations center, you can define your standard operating procedures, how you would address a specific event, for example, or a specific anomaly. So you would have that easily prepare your standard operating procedures across your security locations, across all the locations. You will have consistency in terms of your responses. when some event does take place, you will have a consistent response mechanism because of this centralized operations. You will have better visibility into that. And you'll have this uniformity, simplifying the interoperability, promoting a cohesive approach to overall security center. Then coordination improvement, the enhanced coordination is definitely arises, because then you have the people from across multiple teams. It could be IT team, it could be your security personnel that are end users for this, the response teams, the emergency response team, for example. All of them can better coordinate with the centralized approach, and you will know what action needs to be taken and how quickly you can take action through this better coordination. And improved decision making is another aspect of it, because you have real-time data available for you centrally, no matter where this event has taken place in multiple across your locations. You have your data available immediately on real-time basis, and you'll be able to take appropriate decisions, dispatch the right response teams, etc., with the ability to have centralized view of things. You have better scalability, because obviously you don't need to look into having and upgrading multiple systems. It's easier to scale at one location rather than having multiple locations and multiple systems, upgrading various types of servers, software, hardware, etc. The scalability is so much better when you centralize your operations, both in terms of the infrastructure as well as the personnel that you need to manage. Obviously, all of it arises to the better oversight and accountability, because you have a team that's overall responsible for across all locations, not depending on the staff that is at the periphery end, but at the central location, who has an oversight onto all the locations, and who will be able to take better actions and decisions. So these are easy to see. I'm sure this people can understand, or we can really see the value that it brings by centralizing the security operations. But why is it that many of them have not done it, is what we will get into, and how we can address those challenges or roadblocks to ensure that everybody can take advantage of centralizing their security operations. So, some of the points that you do need to consider before jumping on to the bandwagon of centralizing the security operations are: how do you ensure the local autonomy or address the localized security challenges? Each location may have some specific security issues or challenges, whether it is related to safety or whether it is related to how specific response needs to be addressed, or specific incident needs to be addressed. So local environment, the needs of the local setup needs to be considered. Immediate response is definitely a thing that we need to consider, even though just because we centralize security, you don't need to wait for some decision to come from somewhere to address a particular challenge or a particular issue that has happened. So the quick responsiveness is something that we need to consider, and how do we address that? Even though the operations are centralized, how do we ensure the responsiveness is not taken a hit and everything is responded to quickly at each location? Then the flexibility that is needed, because each location is different. As we said, maybe the storage needs are different for each location, or the number of days that you would need to store your data may be different. The way you address a particular incident could be different. The skill sets could be different of people that are across multiple locations. But how flexible is the system to cater to all these scenarios is another aspect that we need to consider when trying to centralize the operations. And obviously, redundancy and resilience is another aspect that we consider. Instead of having a one single point of failure, if there is, let's say, for example, a power failure or something that happens at the central command center, with distributed approach that is currently today, its local impact remain local. They don't impact the entire all other locations. So how do we ensure that same flexibility or the facility of ensuring that one location getting down does not impact all other locations, even though you have centralized? So how do you address that is another aspect that we consider. These are some of the main areas we need to consider in terms of deploying when you go ahead with centralizing your security operations. So when we look at the roadblocks, the challenges that typically that you face. I'm sure Mr. Srinivas can jump in on a lot of these things. I'll start probably with just one of those aspects, which is the network connectivity. So when you look at centralizing, it's easy to see, as we said, the need. The need is there definitely, but how do we start, or where do we get started? The first challenge that comes is when you have multiple locations, how can you connect all of them? Whether you need dedicated lines to connect to it, to be able to see, whether you need public IP, because most of the times what happens is you would have a public IP or a static IP. You access that NVR from any location. That possibility is there. That's how many people use it today, that you have static IP to your NVRs, or you do port forwarding, you connect to that. That raises a lot of security challenges, cyber security issues, etc. But the question remains that how do we connect? What kind of network is required? Whether you need dedicated lines, MPLS connection, is 4G okay for me? Do I need a broadband connection? All of these concerns and scenarios. How much of bandwidth do I need? All those questions that come up in the minds, and those pose risk, because the moment you want to take up something like this, the level of knowledge and the skills of your team also is important. Who can design the right solution? So all of it, how do we address? How does Duranc address these scenarios? Takes away the complexity of building this solution is what we will discuss in the later slides. But just to touch upon these issues is what we want to understand, or get you up to speed in terms of these roadblocks that you would face typically. So who will design this network strategy for you? What kind of bandwidth is required at each location? How many cameras you have that you want to connect? At what resolutions? Because all of these things need to be considered.
Yeah. So, like Vamshi was saying that, you have multiple networks, you have multiple devices and storage devices that are there in localized areas. Most of the time, when we looked at assessment of the existing implementation, we often hear some of the things like, we did our risk assessment of the security implementation. See, the risk assessment comes when you have a risk is already posed, right? Already we have seen some kind of a risk such scenario with a cybersecurity or somebody tampering into your NVR. That's when you start looking at the risk assessment. These things happen because of your localized devices that are, having no security at all per se. And, these storages that are in the NVR, and then you are trying to give a standardized user ID password for somebody to log in from remotely with the static IP, and then try to retrieve some data for the evidence. That's when you see a lot of, leakages in the data, and then, floating around, or somebody took the NVR down itself and then taken over all the data. So are disconnecting the NVRs. And when the network NVR is already disconnected, you don't need to, you will never get a notification. So centralizing the storages, which we will touch upon, is, moving the whole thing into cloud, but you still have your local devices still storing the data. And then that redundancy is created, and central command control is not impacted with any kind of a downtime for any of the endpoint location or the central command control for that matter. That opportunities all need to be looked at in the risk assessment.
Yeah, because the moment you get into centralization, you would also need to worry about how much storage would I need, what kind of storage devices should I use. All of that complexities also come in, requiring a lot of thought. And how do we address those scenarios is what we will talk about in future in the next upcoming slides. But also in terms of devices, not only the network, but also the cameras that you have, or the NVRs, DVRs that you have, that could be from multiple different makes and models would be there. Most of the times, one does not interoperate with the other, and you would need different softwares to be able to connect and watch different makes of cameras. So if you have Hikvision cameras, you put Axis cameras in some location. Axis camera needs a different software. Hikvision needs a different software, and you install this plugin. That plugin does not work. You will have to uninstall that software. I have seen this in multiple locations, different customer locations, where they have set up different systems to ensure that 2-3 systems interoperate properly with those plugins, they have one desktop which they use to connect to only those locations. Another desktop to connect to those locations, again, because it uses a different plugin that does not interoperate with this plugin, conflicts with it. So these kind of challenges when you have multiple camera makes and models, how do we ensure all of that are taken into a central platform easily, seamlessly, is another aspect that creates a challenge and puts a roadblock. Definitely security and privacy is one aspect, because then the moment you try to centralize, I think Srini mentioned those points already in terms of the cyber security threats, because you're pulling the data from different locations. Anybody can in the middle can spoof, and what kind of architecture that you follow, what kind of measures that you take to ensure it remains secure and completely encrypted is another aspect. And when you have to centralize, what is the skill gap? What kind of resources do you need to manage the central operations is another aspect of it. As we mentioned earlier, the industry or the technology space is evolving fast, and the end users, to be able to take advantage of it, they will need to be trained on these systems to be able to take that actual benefit out of the systems that get deployed. Most of the systems that exist today, the enterprise systems, are too complex to configure, too complex to use. Those are the biggest problems that we have seen also. The moment you have just two locations, it's fine, it's okay, because the configurations are smaller and you can manage in-house. But the moment you get into an enterprise level where we have more than a handful of locations, even with 15, 20 locations, we have seen problems where the configurations is a mess sometimes, and people need OEM training. They need to come back to each location, do the proper updates, configurations, etc. So how do you actually deploy the system is one challenge, and how do you use that system is another challenge. In terms of managing your storage, how do you ensure that once especially the storage area also, like when you configure your retention days, after 30 days it gets into some other block, and then it goes into some other block, etc. All these configurations we have seen as too complex, requiring a lot of skills in the and training that is required for the users. So how do we ensure that is addressed properly is another aspect of it. And last but not least, yeah.
Sorry. Furthermore, with all these things together, calculating the hardware storages, the size of the servers, that actually puts a lot of stress on the the IT department or the security department to do the budgeting. So how much capex I need, and how much is the budget I need for the maintenance and all those things. So that upfront cost calculations, and then the maintenance cost, that actually puts a lot of roadblocks in terms of modernization, in terms of taking to the next level, in terms of putting new technologies in place. If that is simplified, then it becomes easy for the decision makers to take the decisions to take the new technology and implement it faster.
Yeah, and another concern that people would have is the moment you want to centralize is the upfront costs. What kind of upfront costs that I will incur? Because that's last but not least, the bottom line should not be affected too much because of the decision that you take. Right. So when you look at centralizing these operations, do you need additional servers? How much of servers would you need? How much of bandwidth would you need? How much of storage that you would need, etc. All of it. The upfront cost is a huge blockage. Typically, that puts a stop sign in terms of moving forward with centralizing. So how that gets addressed with the Duranc solution is what we will discuss. So when we take up each point, let's look at each of these scenarios and see how that gets addressed. So the first stop sign of having disparate networks, right? How do we get rid of that and ensure that we can actually go ahead with centralizing our security operations and ensuring we get the benefit of centralization? So with the Duranc solution, the Duranc Vision solution supports any network, be it broadband connectivity, be it leased line connectivities, MPLS, VPN, etc., and it could be 4G, 5G networks. Using any network, you will be able to bring in your cameras from different locations into a centralized platform for centralized monitoring, as well as deploying analytics on it, obviously. So the first step before you apply any analytic is to be able to get the feed into so that you will have access to it from wherever you are. Centralized, obviously, yes, but also from wherever you are. So to be able to get that, it could be using any network. So we have deployments, for example, where on the moving vehicle, cameras from a moving vehicle are also brought into the central command center. You have control over it. You can actually move the PTZ functionality of the camera that's mounted on the moving vehicle to be able to control that and guide the on-field personnel from the central command center. So we have such use cases like that. So using any network, you can bring in those cameras to the central platform. And when you connect it, you may or may not have a public IP. As we said, having a public IP to connect poses its own cyber security risks and threats. So we have a solution that can connect securely without even public IP at any location. So no matter when you use, for example, 4G, 5G, it's not even possible sometimes to get a public IP. So it will be dynamically changing IP, etc. Obviously, you can use some other solutions like a dying DNS, etc. That's possible there, but still, then you will have more complexity. You will have a DNS server that you will have to manage to have this DNS. So complexity increases like that. So we avoid all of that complexity by simplifying through our use of the gateway software in between, which enables secure connectivity from any location through any type of a network to the central location. So that network now you can completely forget about this as one of the roadblocks, and you can say, yeah, no matter where I am, whether I'm far off, whether I'm at the city center, whether I'm at the outskirts, you will still be able to get all of those locations into the central platform. You will still have access to all of your cameras, no matter how far away they are and how weak the connectivity or non-availability of a broadband connectivity, for example. All of those scenarios, also we can bring in the cameras into the central monitoring center.
And further grouping of all these cameras on a logical way. Some of them are coming through 4G, 5G network from the vehicle mounted, like Vamshi mentioned, and some of them are coming from a remote, say, mining location where they are coming from a fixed camera, fixed location. So all these together, you can do a logical grouping of these 3 cameras from these 3 locations and these 3 cameras from these 3 vehicles need to be grouped as one functional group, and then the command control can watch them as a group. All those things can be mixed and matched irrespective of their network, underlying network connectivity.
Exactly. It's the sensitive areas of different locations, if a specific area, or it could be an area where a generator is there at each location, and you want to monitor all those areas where generators are there. Those can be grouped into one group, and then you can quickly monitor them irrespective of underlying location. Yeah. The second roadblock that we spoke about was having multiple makes and models of cameras, having different sets of CCTV infrastructure in terms of DVRs, NVRs, cameras, PTZ cameras, etc. So Duranc supports any camera make and model. We have covered hundreds of different models and makes of cameras. Obviously, with ONVIF, it makes it easier. Everybody understands that. So if the camera is ONVIF compliant, there are obvious advantages to it also, where you can manage a lot more things from the platform, like you can control the PTZ functionality, etc. But without ONVIF, when you have cameras that are not ONVIF compliant, that are not standards based, so to say, we can still take those cameras and bring to the platform for centralized management, storage, assigning analytics on it, all of that, by simply taking the video stream from that camera. As long as a camera can give me a live video feed, typically through RTSP, which most of the cameras, 99.99% of cameras these days provide that. So we can connect to any of your existing cameras. There is no need to change cameras. That's another big advantage, not only for the centralized monitoring purpose, but also for applying analytics. So we do not depend on any camera feature for applying analytics on it, whether it is for license plate detection, whether it is for facial recognition that you want to apply, whether it is for intrusion detections, loitering detection that you want to do. Any of these analytics also can be applied on your existing cameras. There is no need to change, replace any cameras. That also takes away your upfront costs. Obviously, we'll get to that point as well, because you can reuse most of your existing infrastructure. not only IP, as I said, but even analog cameras through the DVR. We can pull the video feed from those cameras, the analog cameras, and then connect to the platform. The third aspect, I think we briefly spoke about it while discussing the storage needs, is to ensure that solution provides a flexible storage options. Maybe it's not the typical scenario is that you have set of cameras, let's say 32 cameras, 64 channel, etc. is what you typically get. So you have a facility where you say, when you add cameras, depending on the size of the disk, you would say, I can store for 30 days. Now, if you add a few more cameras to that, the storage goes down to, let's say, 23 days, 27 days, something like that. But all of those cameras, again, have the same storage. It's just basically first in, first out mechanism. The oldest one gets wiped off, you would have the latest recordings. But do you have the flexibility to specify for maybe some cameras need 7 days is fine, but some cameras need 90 days. Do you have that flexibility to decide at individual camera level what kind of storage is required for this location, for this camera? So that flexibility is what is very important, and that's what Duranc provides. You can choose the retention days per camera, and there is no need for complex storage calculations. This always, when you think of surveillance and cameras, the biggest worry is what is the storage that I require? How many TBs, petabytes, etc. is the discussion that goes on, and it's quite complex depending on a lot of parameters. Duranc has simplified all of it. You do not have to worry anything second about your storage calculations. You simply define by the number of days on the platform. So you say, I need it for 90 days, you will have it for the last 90 days of data on the cloud, irrespective of what is the size of the data that comes. So you don't have to worry about those calculations. Simply decide how many days you need, and if your needs change, because it's not constant, life is never constant, and you would have your requirements change from 30 days to, let's say, due to regulation, it has to be now, let's say, 90 days. So you can simply change the license and say, I need for this camera now 90 days. The system keeps storing the data for 90 days. Or you want to reduce it for some cameras, it's fine. So whatever be your changing requirements, the solution can adapt to those changing needs and provide you easy way of having your data. And when it comes to storage, what I always say is that it's not, it doesn't matter how much you store or where you store, etc. But it's the ability to be able to quickly identify and retrieve that data that you have for a specific date and time. So whatever you need, how quickly you can retrieve, because that's what determines your time to act when you need to diagnose something, when you need to do an evidence management. That's what is more important, and that's what Duranc provides, the easy way of retrieving any data of any time, of any location, any camera. That's what we provide as a quick search mechanism to be able to quickly retrieve when you need it. Yeah, moving on, we also spoke a little bit about the cybersecurity because of having public IP, for example. One aspect is the network security, which obviously is addressed through end-to-end encryption in the platform. It's fully secure. All the communication, starting from user login to the data that goes back and forth, even the camera streams that go are encrypted and sent to the platform up to the user level. Again, when the user is watching, it goes in a secure channel. So there is an end-to-end encryption. The encryption is there both in transit when the data is in transfer, and also at rest on the platform when we store it. And we also support multi-factor authentication for user access. So user gets a one-time password. So you have an additional layer of authentication, not just the username and password. System also supports granular user access management. You can create any number of users in the platform. There is no limit to it. You will have full control of your users. You could use your single sign-on, your LDAP, for example, if you are using, you can integrate with that. Then ensure that you have right users having access to the right cameras and the data. So you can give it at a granular level, at a location level, at an individual camera level, whether they can see live recordings, analytics data, all of that can be managed by yourself. You will have complete control over it. And being a cloud solution, obviously, as service has, we have an option. You can choose to say no provider has access to my data. That remains private to you. The provider will not have any views to your cameras. Yeah, and then another point of usage. One is configuration, the other is usage. How easy is the system to set up, and how easy it is for using. So setup being VSAS, there's very little complexity in there. You can simply create, once we get you an account created in the platform, you will be able to just create a location under you. For each location you can create simply with the actual address of that particular location, etc., and simply start adding the cameras with a simple browser-based user interface. There is no complexity involved in that, though no technology or technical knowledge that is required for the users to be able to add cameras, to be able to apply analytics on any of those cameras also, or to define your storage parameters. All of it is done through a simple user interface. Through a browser based. There is no need for any other software or plugin, whether you're watching live, whether you're watching recordings also, or applying analytics. There's no additional software that's required. All you need is a browser, and whatever device that you have, you can use that. Maybe a laptop, maybe a tablet, maybe your smartphone. You can use any of that to be able to manage and control, view all of the data. So it makes it very easy, and simplified user interface is what Duranc provides, a browser-based simple user interface. And then, because it's a solution that's provided as a VSAS, which is Video Surveillance as a Service, delivered from the cloud. And when I say cloud, there are again multiple options. It could be Duranc's cloud, it could be your own data center, it's your private cloud, for example, or it could be within the local network or through VPN connectivity. So there are multiple deployment models, but we typically provide it as majority solution as surveillance solution as a service delivered from the cloud. So there is no other, you don't have to worry about maintenance of any of the equipment. It's all done by Duranc in the platform, in the cloud. There is no need to worry about additional hardware, additional software, and then ensuring you have power supply, cooling, all of those scenarios. You can. There is no upfront cost or no capex cost that is involved when you want to centralize your security operations when you go with Duranc cloud option. It goes by a simple subscription option. You could start with a monthly subscription, go on to an annual, an annual billing mode or quarterly billing mode, etc. There are various simple subscription options that Duranc provides, and you don't have to worry about any other additional costs. There are no hidden costs. You know what it costs, upfront. You don't need to worry about what are the hidden costs. Okay, fine, I'll buy a server today, but then beyond that, I'll need AMC for those servers. I need to worry about ensuring continuous power supply, UPS supply for it, ensuring cooling for those servers, etc. All of that you can forget, because there are no hidden additional costs involved in the platform. Yeah. So once that's how Duranc addresses these roadblocks, and then you can get started very quickly in terms of adding your locations. You can start with just a handful of cameras, 1 or 2 locations, then expand rapidly, very quickly to any number of locations and any number of cameras very easily and very quickly. Some of the additional advantages with Duranc platform are that there is intelligent streaming. We support multicast. So even when there are multiple users watching the same camera system, only one stream is taken from the location, and then all of the users have access to that. Like for example, in a school bus, when we give access to the parents, right? So typical scenario is that in other solutions, from the location, from the bus itself, through the 3G or 4G connectivity that they have, all these streams have to come out, and then nobody actually gets to see the live view. That's a challenge. Whereas with the Duranc platform, only one stream comes from that source, from that location, and then all of the users have a seamless access to the same feed with the same quality, irrespective of how many users are watching that particular camera. Then we spoke also about grouping of these cameras. So you can group cameras as you need. It's a logical grouping. You can create nested groups, a group under a group, for example, based on a region, based on the state, region, state, district, then get on to however you would like. That's from an administrative perspective, maybe that's the way. But from a functional perspective, it could be that all your entry exit points need to be grouped as one, so you can have access to it, not only like for live viewing, but also for reporting purposes. Like, for example, when you track vehicle entry through automated number plate detection with the platform, all these events get tracked, and you can group and see the events for a particular region, for a particular set of locations. So whether it is retail, for example, right, when you look at it, you can see what is the footfall in this region, this type of stores. You can group all the high-end stores, for example, as one group, and you can have a look at the metrics, the footfall metrics, or any other metrics that are created in the platform by grouping similar locations. Another advantage is the health monitoring of all the connected cameras. So you will have complete control over what is working, what is not working. Maybe the cameras are managed by different providers at different locations. The actual guy who implemented your CCTV infrastructure could be different across your different locations, right? When you have that, it makes it easy by sending a notification to that guy with a copy to you saying that this camera is down, so that guy actually at that location will go rectify if there is any problem with the camera. So it makes it easy to manage when you have this centralized access. You don't need to depend on data coming up from each location. You have access on your fingertips anytime of all the data. You have your fine-grained user control. Obviously, you have access. You can create users, and as we spoke about, there is no limitation in terms of number of users that you can create, and specific users, permissions to specific cameras and specific events. You could also create time-lapse videos, which is basically creating a short condensed video so that you can quickly review what has happened over a period of time in a matter of a few minutes. Makes it easy to diagnose any particular event that has happened. And then you can also publish your live view, give access to the camera live view to external agencies, maybe for auditing purposes, maybe for review you want to publish to general public, or it could be some specific audit agencies you want to give temporary access. You can create a link, share that link with them. They will have temporary live view access only, nothing to do with configuration changes. They will only have access to the live view. So these are some of the advantages by using Duranc platform and centralizing your operations. On top of the VMS, we have integrated AI-based analytics that are inbuilt in the system. There is no third-party component in the platform. They're all very well integrated. There is no need to worry about interoperability challenges, integration challenges. They're fully integrated into the platform. There are a set of analytics that you can apply. Can apply any analytic on any camera, be it intrusion detection, be it facial recognition, license plate detection, crowd formation, minimum staffing. All of these, any of these can be applied on any camera, no matter what type of camera is underneath that, providing the feed, right? So it's easy, and you can run multiple analytics on the same camera as well. That's also possible. And for any time an event is triggered, you would have real-time notifications sent out to you on email, on WhatsApp integration, etc. We have APIs that can push the events to your external systems so that you can take further action as needed in those systems. So we have well-defined APIs helping you to integrate with your existing external systems. All of it gives rise to managing exceptions, not requiring to do eyeball monitoring all the time. Because when you have multiple locations, so many cameras, it's humanly impossible to keep monitoring all the cameras. So you manage by exceptions based on the events that get triggered on the platform. You can easily manage that. We have incident management. You can escalate the incident to somebody for review, and then they can record what action has been taken, and you will have that record with you and as a proof, as to ensure that proper actions are taken in time, in a timely manner by the assigned people who are accountable for it. And to address the challenge of redundancy, we spoke about, when you have disparate multiple locations, the one advantage of having a decentralized one is the redundancy. With Duranc, you have the advantage of it by having your command center on the go. So no matter where I am, my device, my smartphone is my command center. I can see everything that's happening. I have access to it from my phone itself. Or it could be a different center that you would like to build for disaster recovery. You could have multiple centers and all of them having access to the same set of data. No matter where you are, you can log in with your secure login and you will have access to the entire system, the platform. So that helps you bring in the required redundancy and resiliency, failover capabilities. I guess we can talk about this a little bit in terms of, I think we're probably short of time, maybe a few more minutes we can spend.
Yeah, I think it was an elaborate discussion. It can, if it is another 2-3 hours, also we have much more features that are there which we can explain. This is one of the things that inbuilt into the system where you have the workflow designed, and like Vamshi said, there is no eyeball monitoring required, because eyeball monitoring is always a painful fact that command control has to face. In this, the exceptions are the anomalies from the cameras, or the rule definition based events will get fired into the screen, and then that can be escalated and flagged, and it has been sent to somebody who can actually do the review and then do the flagging and then approval process. So that workflow is built into the system, and also all these logs are maintained for the future audit, that if somebody has taken a response in right time or not.
And this a few screenshots of the solution in action. Where you have a track of the health of the cameras, how many cameras are online. If there is any camera that is down, you can take immediate action on top of it. You would have event-based reports, how many times a particular event has happened, how frequently, what days of the week it's happening more, etc. Irrespective of number of locations that you could connect. You have a smart search feature where you can locate a similar looking object by shape or size, etc. across all the events. You can quickly filter through. And then you have real-time alerts that are sent as a timeline view. You can see when events are specifically triggered in a different color. So it makes it easy to quickly go to a specific event anytime you would like to see it. Yeah, and these are the set of analytics that are integrated into the platform. We do have a lot more analytics, many more, but those are custom-built analytics that we developed for customized solutions, because we do in-house development of all the analytics. So these are the ones that are generally applicable across multiple verticals that are fully integrated into the platform. So you can pick up any analytic, pick up any particular camera feed, and then apply the required analytic on it. You can schedule this analytic to run only during specific points of time. Like, for example, you want to look at intrusion detection. You can say only during nighttime I'm interested. You apply this analytic intrusion detection on a camera from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m., for example. So you can define when you would like that to be active.
And further, like when you do the scheduling, you will also can select a person who needs to get that alert when the intrusion happens, that you're not sending it to everyone, or the person in the duty will get that notification.
Exactly. You can define for each type of event who should receive that notification. So I'll probably sum it up with the Duranc advantage being that we're a flexible solution that can cater to not just a specific need or a specific problem, but addresses overall as a solution that can cater to your changing needs, your flexible requirements. We have integrations with external systems. Well-defined APIs are available in the platform, so that you no longer work in silos. We centralize the platform, connect with multiple systems, and we work as a partner with the end customer, not as just some vendor relationship, but as a partner in the journey of your improving the security operations for a better bottom line at the end. So I guess with that, we will stop and take any question QA.
Thank you. Thank you, Vamshi. We have Kanchana. She's a consultant from Chennai.
Okay.
I know her. We work together. So from Qpro consultancy. So they have a lot of clients. So Kanchana is asking, do you execute directly? One is Kanchana, they have Indian multinational company, I would say. They have presence in Europe and US and all that. Both Vamshi and Srini are based out of Hyderabad. They have got a good team. And as I was doing the introduction, they go to the client, understand if there is a preferred partner that client wants to associate, then they will work. Otherwise, they can go directly with the client. They're also looking at the good ethical
Yeah.
partners across the
Let
country.
let me jump in, Dominic. Kanchana, that's a good question. We as a OEM, we as a technology development company, we prefer to be a part of our development process, but we prefer to have our partners to be at the ground with the customers. So that's our first choice and first preference to go to market. The existing system integrators might be having a relation already with the customer. We do work with them. And if it is purely on the visas, we have the visas actually built in such a way that resellers or distributors can be configured into the system, and they can have their own customers defined under them if they prefer to come into our cloud, or if it's required to be a government kind of a project where it needs to be implemented on premises, the entire solution can also be put and deployed on the premises also, if it is an implementation that demands the on-premises implementation. So like I said, our preference would be going with the partners, but if there is a customer that would like to work with us directly, then we take our partner as a local support system, and we still do work with them.
Yeah, as Mr. Srini was saying, we are expanding. They are expanding their operations. They would love to work with partners who are specialized in surveillance, and VMS is one of the component in the entire solutions. So they have a huge clientele. In this case, they have already executed a couple of projects, whatever Srini Vamshi was presenting. So they have, I just want to ask you both Vamshi and Srini, while I get a few more questions. So what is your model in India that you're working at the moment for similar solutions across the country?
We have a mix and match. Luckily, we were fortunate enough to have good challenges to implement. Like today's webinar itself is outcome of that all challenges that we have experienced and then we have solved. So like we have for one of our customer, we have connected almost 400 locations with 5,000 cameras, and I think 26 or 27 different makes and models of different brands basically of cameras, and the networks are remote networks, which are local ISPs providing internet. All these cameras are pulled into our cloud, and again, the central command control of the customer is actually doing a live monitoring plus the storage on the cloud for 180 days. Apart from that, we have a client in Chennai who is having a depots across 60 plus locations in the country. They're technology distributors with warehouses across the country. And we have connected almost 1,200 cameras for them for live monitoring to their Gummidipoondi center, where they have a good command control center with live monitoring, and intrusion detection is done through our system. And they do SOPs based on that. So that implementation is also there. And we're also looking at some of the implementations which are on premises. Currently, we're working with some government agencies. Those are in the pipeline through some partners. So that's actually the mix and match.
So, Srini, you're saying the largest network that you have did is 5,000 camera of different locations and bringing it to one single platform, and the entire process is stored in cloud.
Exactly.
That's good. I think Mohammad Azim Qureshi is asking, is Duranc VMS RPA SIAM? How do Duranc compete with Milestone and Genetic, which is known name in the market?
Yeah, I mean, everybody have their own, ideas, their own space. They have their own technology. I don't want to really go and say this is apple to apple match or apple to oranges match. So that's left to our partners to decide, because I don't want to boast too much about my, ability to go beyond my competitors. But we are open and ready for free POCs, and also if you want to check out the system, we are ready to implement in some of your installations a small proof of concept implementation. You can see and decide what is the difference. But we are a native cloud built solution, Visa solution. It's been built ground up back from 2015, when there was a very limited cloud footprint. We have done cloud implementation, cloud development per se from that time onwards. So our efficiency levels in terms of streaming, our efficiency in terms of taking forward the storages, management of the storage of the thing, and then security, everything is everything is basically done in a way that we have completely built from ground up our solution to the cloud. So that's why the efficiency levels are different. And we are not a traditional system with a hard tool to install on your local command control. Like Vamshi was saying, we're a very flexible solution with a browser based, and it's very seamless in terms of how we bring in the cameras and then feed, and how we apply analytics. One of the simple factor I would tell you is we are not just a simple VMS. We have almost 13 to 14 well-built AI-based analytics that can be applied on any camera, be it a IP camera or be it an old analog camera. So except for the fact of few analytics, which are facial recognition and number plate detection, we don't need high-end cameras to run AI analytics, because we depend on the feed. We don't depend on the camera, functionality to do the analytics. So that's already Vamshi has explained in brief about that. So there are many factors that differentiate, but we leave that to our partners to decide.
So very, very diplomatic answer, and non-controversial, I would say, answer. You placed it well. Yes, you are. What with my experience, you are completely different. As I said, it cannot be compared. It's not an apple to apple comparison. By partnering, they will get to know the difference between the rest and you. Mohammed is also asking, do you have any policy to do a POC? Yes, of course. I think that is answered by Srini. You love to do a POC, and then, come to an understanding. Srini's email ID is in the chat box, where my colleague Kirtana is typing. So Srini's email ID, Mohammed can get back to Srini directly and take it. I think they have done many POCs before going full-fledged VMS solution to the client. Kanchana is asking, do you have on-site server-based solution?
Yes, absolutely. That's what I mentioned. The deployment models are many. We are very flexible. Even though we have built our solution cloud native, we have already converted our solution into on-prem deployment, or it can be hybrid solution also. It can be like, you have 100 locations. In 100 locations, the analytics are running locally, but the metadata is coming to the cloud and VMS is in the cloud. That could be a possibility. Or it can be the whole thing is deployed in your command control in your DC on a server based, and then you connect 100, 200, 300 locations, or it is a single location with everything deployed locally. Absolutely flexible. You can do whatever the kind of thing, and we do work with you as a partner, because you are the consultant at the client level. So we try to design that structure, design that implementation methodology for you, and we provide all the documentation for you to go back to the customer. And also, yes, if you're required to understand the budgetary scenarios, we also give you the brief calculations of differences between working with the cloud on a OpEx model and versus deploying it locally on a CapEx model. Also can be helped out by our team to you, so that you can go convince your customer accordingly.
Srini, where is the example, if the retail, there are around, say, 1,800 retail stores with, 10, 15 cameras in each retail store, bringing them on the cloud and connecting through VMS, how effective it is? Is it realistic to do that?
Absolutely realistic, and we have proven it for 5,000. We have proven it for 1,200. It can be 10,000. Doesn't matter. Local upload bandwidth is required for each camera to push, and then we can do analytics in the cloud. And then since you mentioned about the use case of the retail. We can do store open close report. We can do footfall count. We can do nighttime intrusion detection at the cash counter or at the expensive merchandise that is there on the shop floor. So those things, those analytics can be run, and then they can be pushed as real-time notifications to the security and to the management. So it doesn't matter whether it is 400 locations or 800 locations.
Yeah, I'm running out of battery, so I muted my video.
Okay.
Yeah. Any further questions? Yeah, not much of questions. We'll be coming back again in the mid of June, talking on security and safety through VMS. So we'll be, connecting with all of you once again. And enlightening the features of these solutions. So as Srini was saying, every case is different from what they have given a solution. So they would love to, interact with customers and consultant and see what else they can build in the analytic. So your feedback, though you may not be direct customer, but your feedback to Srini and Vamshi will give an added advantage for customer solutions. So I look forward, everyone, to join back in our next session. And thank you, Kanchana. Thank you, Mohammed, to put these questions across. And your interaction with Srini and Vamshi would be wonderful. So the mail ID and the website of Duranc is already shared by my colleagues. And I want to thank Vamshi and Srini for, I know you guys are traveling hectic everywhere. And thank you for coming forward and sharing the knowledge for the day. And we continue to do this every month. We'll keep in, and we also planning to do, physical product, presentations and network. I have a panel discussion. So soon we may do it in Bangalore, then move to Chennai. So we'll try and do one physical interaction with customers in your cities. So thank you, Vamshi. Thank you, Srini. Have a great weekend. Look forward to see you soon again. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.